Hi everyone, Bill Duvendack here with a July 22, 2022 astrological preview video. I am recording this the weekend before we start July, and the reason that's important is because I just witnessed the United States Supreme Court do one of the stupid a long time. But what do you expect when Trump from the previous administration? Now, having said all that, let's move on. July starts off with the moon in Leo trining Jupiter in Aries. So what we get right off the bat is a feel-good time of optimism, luck, probably a boon in creativity. And if you play your cards right, you could put yourself in a position to not only get some financial prosperity on down the road if you grab opportunities and take the initiative, but also maybe putting into motion expanding your own consciousness through following your intuition and figuring out how to do what is best for everybody involved in the situations that you have in your daily life. Now, we also have the moon sextiling Venus in Gemini at that time, meaning that it's a good day to get out and chat with people, have fun, figure out fun things to do, spend time overthrowing the patriarchy. Any of those up-filled love and light kind of activities would be fun as well. Now, this is followed up by the second with the moon in Leo trining Chiron in Aries, and the moon is opposing Saturn in Aquarius. That makes this a good time to assess wounds in your life, especially those that have to do with a wounded sense of self and wounded sense of being. And in the process, you may find that that puts you in odds with the rest of society. And for each one of those subjects, you'll have to ask yourself if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's not always a good thing to go along with the flow, especially if you can see that things are headed in a destructive direction like they are in the States right now. But by that same token, many times the right thing for the most amount of people is in line with what the masses say. So where I'm going with this is that you cannot simply say you are against part of the greater whole, that would be Saturn in Aquarius, and for yourself, that would be the moon in Leo. And the opposite is also true. Each situation requires critical thinking to look and see exactly what the appropriate response here is. And the appropriate response, of course, is not just ethically and morally, but also what is best for the greatest growth and good of all involved in the situation. Now, the third is nice and quiet. And on the fourth, we have the moon in Virgo squaring Venus in Gemini. So you might find your emotions are out of sorts. And that conflict may be between exploring a variety of things versus staying very focused and critical and analytical about a few things. Now, on that day, we also have the moon sextiling the Cancer sun. So you may find it's a good day to clean your house. You may find it is a good day to do some gardening, specifically plants that grow under the earth. Now, the 5th, we have Mercury moving into Cancer. So you may find that your conversations are much more filled with emotion. You may find that there is a longing or a desire to talk to close friends and immediate family members. We also have the moon opposing Neptune in Pisces, and this can be kind of tricky because when this is present, it says it is a good day to see situations in your life clearly rather than how you want to see them or how you want them to be. Now, this particular aspect also puts stressors on anybody with addiction problems or escapism problems because Neptune in Pisces, as we've seen over the last few years, has been addressing all forms of denial and backwards thought and retreating into an emotional state rather than using the intellectual brain that we all have. The 6th, we have Mars moving into Taurus. So the 5th and the 6th, we have two planets changing signs. What that means is a general sense is that you can expect challenges present on the 5th that might mirror a Mercury retrograde. And on the 6th, it might have to do with the workplace. So getting angry because things are the same, or perhaps being in a bad mood and then turning a corner in the office and stubbing your toe. So play it a little extra careful, the 5th and the 6th. On the 6th, we also have the moon in Libra opposing Jupiter in Aries and squaring Mercury in Cancer. Long story short, without getting too deep into the astrology of it, this just reiterates what I was saying about it being a very challenging day. And these challenges may be ones that you could see as growth opportunities, or they could just be flipping problems and headaches. So it's going to be a rough few days there from the 5th and the 6th and the early part of the 7th. But a lot of it is going to have to do with how you interact with your loved ones and people in general, and how you get things done on a daily basis. On the 7th, the moon in Libra trines Saturn in Aquarius, so it's a good time to re-engage society. Libra is the sign of justice, of balance, of harmony, and Aquarius is the sign of groups and society and nonprofit, humanitarian organizations and endeavors. So it's a good day to move forward on those conversations that will get you somewhere in the near future. You might not see immediate results as we're talking about a trine here, but you can still put things in motion and start taking steps towards building some sort of lasting success later. The 8th, we have the moon in Scorpio opposing Mars in Taurus. So you may find your temper shorter, you're more accident prone, you could pursue a matter to ruin. So kind of watch out for the obsessive side or the intense side of the fixed nature of Scorpio and Taurus. But there's also a trine to Mercury in Cancer saying that on that day, a good way to communicate would be using words that elicit positive emotional responses. On the 9th, we have the moon in Scorpio still opposing Uranus in Taurus. So there might be feelings of rebellion. There might be feelings of feeling stifled, feeling like you can't speak your truth. But there's also a trine to the sun in Cancer on that day, and the moon is squaring Saturn. So it sounds like a lot. Let me just bring it kind of back to center. On the 9th, there's going to be challenges. And these challenges are going to have to do with how you manage your moods and how those impact what you do on a daily basis. For example, I know some people that put so much emphasis on being a unique individual that they don't realize when it's working against them. And that's a problem. Sometimes the easiest thing is to not show your individual side to get things done. It's like I said a few minutes ago. Each one of these situations in our life has to be evaluated individually. There is no clear-cut blanket answer. So on the 9th, you may feel like you have to put on a happy face to get along with people. Or perhaps all you want to do is sit in your blanket for it and play with friends. In small doses, these things are okay. Just don't let your emotions cloud your judgment and your logical mind. On the 10th, we have the moon in Sagittarius trining Jupiter in Aries. So it's a wonderful day for a trip, for some traveling. It's a good day to take another look at your investments and your portfolio and see if you can make some changes to build to something bigger in the long run. On the 11th, we have the moon in Sagittarius trining Chiron in Aries and sextiling Saturn in Aquarius. That sounds like a lot, but really all it's saying is that on the 11th, and you can see how you could start the process on the 10th, on the 11th would be a good day to assess your wounds, especially those that have to do with self-esteem, self-confidence, self-value, self-worth. And then not only put in place within yourself mechanisms to heal them, but also see what resources are out there in the greater world around you that can help. On the 12th, the moon's in Capricorn and it's trining Mars in Taurus, so it's a good day to get to work. And I mean straight up, roll up the sleeves, get in and do the dirty work that needs to be done. Now, the moon is also squaring Jupiter on that day, so yes, get to work like I just said, but don't bite off more than you can chew. That's the danger for the 12th. Now on the 13th, we have the full moon, and the moon is squaring Chiron in Aries and opposing Mercury in Cancer. Long story short, it's going to be an intense full moon because the sun moon squaring, or the moon squaring Chiron in Aries is all about old wounds being triggered. So watch out for that. You may also find that you're not in a space to communicate those with other people. Or maybe you try and talk reasonably and emotionally you start vomiting. So kind of watch your words there, manage your emotions to the best of your abilities would be a good way to proceed. Then on the 14th, we have the moon opposite Pluto, so watch out for that short temper, watch out for being accident prone, and watch out for acts of violence, especially in institutions of authority or long-standing institutions of authority. Now on that day, we also have the moon in Aquarius square Mars in Taurus, so you may find that if you get too emotionally invested in what you're doing that day, that it leads to a short temper or feelings of frustration, or once again, being prone to accidents. The 15th, we see the moon opposite Saturn, and that's a real simple one to dissect. Feeling torn internally between doing what is mature and right and responsible with Saturn versus what emotionally feels good, which is the moon. And on the 16th, the moon moves fast enough that we see that it's now sextiling Mars in Taurus, which continues the theme of focusing on your daily work life and the daily workplace. The 17th is nice and quiet. We move on to the 18th with the moon in Aries squaring Venus in Cancer. And on that day, Venus moves into Cancer. Whenever we have the moon square Venus, it says watch out for your romantic relationships. Watch out for your spending habits when your guard might be down with close friends and family members. And a lot of this may have to do with moving ahead with the decisions that are in line with your honor code versus moving ahead with decisions that are emotionally fulfilling, but not necessarily rewarding in any way, shape, or form. The 19th, we see Mercury move into Leo. So here again, on the 18th and the 19th, we have two planets changing signs. So the 18th might bring a lot of unexpected situations having to do with Venusian traits, such as love and money. And then the 19th might bring a little mini Mercury retrograde a few hours, especially since the moon is conjunct Chiron on that day. So you might feel especially vulnerable. You might find that you open your mouth, insert foot, and in the process find out you had some wounds that you didn't know were there. On the 20th, we have the moon square sun. Of course, the squares happen all the time. And this one is all about those same Cancer traits. Spending time in the home, spending time with people you've known a long time, feeling emotionally well, but it's because you're sacrificing so much of your personal beliefs and honor code to feel well that it builds subconscious resentment. On the 22nd, we have the moon in Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius. So you may find that your efforts to spend time alone or spend time relaxing and indulging in a lot of good things is not necessarily in line with what other people think you should do. Or perhaps you want to take a day off, but people in the office say we're short staffed. And we all know you should still take the fucking day off. They're short staffed, that's their own goddamn problem. You shouldn't pay for it. But that idea of squaring between the moon, the daily life, and Saturn, the group mind, the group principle, and challenges there in the reconciliation process are probably what's going to be the norm rather than the exception. So kind of play it safe on the 22nd. On the 23rd, the sun moves into Leo and sextiles the moon in Gemini, which is astro speak for go out and have some fun. Play games with your friends, maybe go see a movie, maybe pull a Mystery Science Theater 3000 with a movie that's great to rip, or a streaming service that's great to make fun of. On the 24th, we have that same moon in Gemini sextiling Chiron in Aries. So this tells us it's a good day for healing, communicating your wounds, communicating what you need to do to heal with people that care and support you. You might also find it's a good day to do research on any wounds that you have, because the answers might come to you easier than you thought. On the 25th, we have that same moon in Gemini squaring Neptune in Pisces and trining Saturn in Aquarius. With the moon in Gemini squaring Neptune in Pisces, this kind of points at a disharmony between the logical mind and the spiritual state of a person. So oftentimes when people that are focused on modern spiritual themes have a bad day at the office, to use a phrase, they want to retreat into their spirituality. This is a day not to do that. In other words, if you're feeling scattered, this is not a day to hide from dealing with it. If you're feeling like you are having to talk to friends so much you can't focus on your spiritual pursuits, that's actually a good thing, because we're here to have the physical experience. And that should be first and foremost. On the 26th, we have a Moon-Venus conjunction in Cancer. So it's all about the good vibes. It's all about doing the feel-good things with friends and with the immediate family. It's all about finding money laying around the house, whether it's behind the sofa or maybe in a remodel that you did or are planning to do. It's also a good day to spend time with close friends, spend times with romantic partners, have a lot of fun with people you've known a long time that you feel secure and comfortable with. 27th, it's nice and quiet. The 28th, we have the new moon in Leo, so it'll be a good time for new beginnings that have to do with creativity. It'll be a good time for working with your inner child, bringing them to the surface, letting them out and letting them have their fun, but also keeping in mind that your inner child should not make adult decisions. On the 29th, we have one of the more active days of the month. We have a triple conjunction of the Sun, Moon, and Mercury in Leo, making it a perfect day to communicate your emotions and practice a lot of creative self-expression and artistry. Now, all of that is squaring Mars and the North Node in Taurus. So you may find that the threat or the danger here is getting lost in the toxic ego. So indulge, have fun. Blessings of good fortune to you with all of that Leo energy. But if you find that that comes at the expense of your spiritual growth, then that's a bad thing. Now, also on that day, that same triple conjunction is trining the Chiron Jupiter conjunction in Aries. So, what that means is when you are engaging your creativity on that day, make it have a point. Don't just do it for the sake of doing it. Do it because it is a means to an end, but you dictate the end. And on this day, part of that end should include healing. So, for example, this would be a good day to take all of your anger or frustrations about something in your life and dump them into a piece of art. Whether that art is music or painting or writing, that kind of catharsis would be good to do during this day. On the 30th, we've got a Moon Mercury conjunction in Leo opposing Saturn in Aquarius. You notice we had Moon Saturn oppositions earlier in the month, and the same thing holds true here. Finding the balance between doing what's best for you during versus doing what's best for everybody involved. Standing alone versus knowing when to stand with groups and other people. And then on the 31st, we end the month with the Sun in Leo trining Jupiter in Aries. And this is a nice aspect that says when you get to the end of July, it would be wise to outline your plans for not only August, but also the rest of the calendar year. It's a trine. So you're in a spot to lay down a solid foundation, but you're not going to see immediate results. Now, what kind of plans to make, what subjects to focus on? They could be spiritually themed. They could be based on financial prosperity and money. They could also be in areas such as physical exercise and working out to keep the pounds off. So you've got some flexibility here about how you choose to do it, but I definitely encourage you to look at some goal setting for August and then outline all the way through the end of December too. Now, there are a couple of other points to know as we go into July. The first is that on the 19th, Chiron will be going retrograde in Aries. So when Chiron is direct, it's all about recognizing and assessing the wound. When Chiron goes retrograde, it is a time to be your own healer or find healing through whatever services and resources are available to you. Chiron retrograde is very interesting to me because the way I just described it to you is how it is in the transiting sky. But if you have Chiron retrograde in your natal chart, it means that you were a healer in your most recent or the majority of your recent past lives. So then you can also extrapolate this to say that anyone born between July 18th and December 23rd is going to have Chiron retrograde in their natal chart. So that means there's going to be a bunch of healers born. I like that. Call me idealistic. I still got hope for the future. May have to rebuild it from burning it all down to ashes, but hey, that's still a step in the right direction on a lot of days. The other thing that we have is on the 27th, Jupiter goes retrograde. So you'll probably start feeling it about the 24th or so. And it will stay retrograde through November 24th, right around Thanksgiving in the US. Now, Jupiter, because it's so beneficial, is the least negatively impacting planet that can go retrograde. So what this means is you're not going to notice much of a change when Jupiter is retrograde. But When Jupiter is retrograde, it means there is a duality present. So you can work with this in your own life. Maybe it's time to put on the mask in the face that the outside world sees so you can get things done, and then when you get home, take it off and be yourself. Maybe it's time to pick up a second job. Maybe it's time to pick up another subject to study spiritually. And those of you watching this know that myself and the Cult of You have a plethora of classes and options available for those that want to learn. The reason I break these two down a little bit more than I normally do is because for some odd, ununderstandable reason, I've seen a lot of occultists and spiritual seekers online making much ado about the current Saturn retrograde, and they shouldn't be. Saturn, when it's retrograde, means that we are in a spot to review outdated methods and techniques that no longer work, and then step up and embrace new ways that do. That's it. And the fact that Saturn is in Aquarius means that a lot of what I just said will apply to groups and organizations and society rather than personally. So it's nothing to fear. It is a good time to look around, see in context of the greater whole where you're at, what changes could and should be made, which ones shouldn't, and then implement it. So this is a fantastic time because we end July with most of the outer planets retrograde, except for Uranus. That means that by the end of July, it's a great time to reassess our role in the greater society, our role in the greater collective. Does not mean we have to put on blinders and go along with the mob, because we know how mob rule works. It also does not mean that we have to turn our back on society and focus 100% on us. Both of those are toxic, destructive ways. The truth is somewhere in the middle, and that's a sliding scale for all of us. So while July 1st starts off with a lot of optimism and good vibes with that moon trine Jupiter on the 1st, which symmetrically is closed with the sun trine Jupiter on the 31st, the later we get into the month, the more it's time to reevaluate and reassess our role in the world at large, because there is no going back to a time when things were not connected. We are becoming more connected every day. And on one hand, that's fabulous. And on the other hand, it can be kind of scary to some people. So a lot of July is going to be figuring this out for yourself. Anyway, as always, thank you to Adam Knox for the platform and the reach to put this out there. I hope everybody enjoyed this. Remember that I do daily horoscopes on my 418 Ascendant Esoteric Astrology page. There are monthly horoscopes on my website, BillDuvendack.com. And if you run a shop or an online business and you want to have my horoscopes on your website, feel free to hit me up. Otherwise, make sure that you are following along with what we're doing with the Cult of You. We're getting into some advanced areas, and I hope you all come with us for the journey. Until we chat again, may we all receive blessings of good health, prosperity, and success as we move forward in the next month of our lives. Namaste, bitches.
I've always felt a little different, a little uneasy between regular folk, a bit of a dreamer, a lost cause, a little non-ordinary, some would say. I think I've always just been this way. My mother said I was special, my father thought I should be feared. But I knew that witchcraft coursed through my veins the first time I tasted the lips of the goddess inside the rain. Yes, I'm a witch, it's true. And sure, we are the ones who believe in the beauty of nature, who believe in the things science, absent of art, cannot explain, who instead of religion would have romance, And sure, you may think we have lost our way, when in the world of predictable things we have such unfamiliar things that we would like to say. But maybe in a world so cold and alone, a little unfamiliar is exactly what is needed to show us the way home.